What's my life? I'll have to be cleaning windows.
Peter here from Window Cleaning World. Today we're going to do a stiffness comparison test between 4 of the leading poles in the industry today in the 40-foot category. And we're proud to introduce the brand new Gardiner Ultimate High Reach pole, which is designed to be a very sturdy and the ultimate in stiffness as far as poles go. Next to it we have the Gardiner Xtreme, the world's lightest telescopic pole. Next to it we have the Reach-iT Pro, 40 foot. And then we have the fantastic value Gardiner SuperMax 45. So the Reach-iT Pro is a 40-foot pole, and the Gardiner Xtreme and the Gardiner Ultimate are 47-foot poles, whereas the Gardiner SuperMax is a 45-foot pole. So it's a 40-foot pole comparison, and what we've done here, there are fittings available for the Gardiner Ultimate that allow you to put the pole tip in after you've taken the number 1 section out, and it comfortably reaches 40 feet or more without that top section in there. Now you can see from here that the Gardiner Ultimate is extremely stiff. There's hardly any bend to it. The Gardiner Xtreme comes a second. Very lightweight pole. It's also performing beautifully here. Very little bend to it. It's not fully extended because we're doing a 40-foot comparison here. Not far behind is the Reach-iT Pro. It has to be said this pole is considerably heavier than any of these two poles, so it will be bowing under its own weight as well. And finally the Gardiner SuperMax is the least stiff of them all, but still very respectable compared to other poles that we've had in tests before. And looking at the brush heads, they are extended out at slightly different lengths, but they have very similar weights on the end of them. The brush heads are the brush heads that the poles come with or can come with. The Reach-iT Pro has a slightly heavier brush on it. It's also going to be heavier once water is going to be flowing through it, because the tubing that goes to the jets is 8mm as opposed to 6mm. Gardiner is all about lightweight, and if you held half a kilo above your head and you did this all day with half a kilo, you will feel that. So by reducing weight, you're reducing the work and the effort that you're putting into the cleaning. Rightio, so we're going to weigh these poles. I've taken the pole tips off, so it's just the pole. Start with the Reach-iT. We have 3.2 kilos. Well, the SuperMax 45 is just under 3 kilos. I'd say it's 2.95. 250 grams less. The Ultimate, which is a 47-foot pole, I've put the number 1 section in. It is also 2.95 kilos. And now the lightest pole available in the world today, the Xtreme, 47 foot. It is 2.5 kilos on these scales. So it is 700 grams less than the Reach-iT Pro, but it's 7 foot longer. So we'll now weigh the brush heads to give you a comparison. This would be a bog standard plastic angle adapter with a Supreme brush. Without water, it is 341 grams. If water were to flow through this brush, it's only going through 6mm tubing as opposed to this brush, which has 8mm tubing. So this is a Reach-iT brush. It's admittedly one of the older brushes of Reach-iT. It is 441 grams with the pole tip inserted. Here we have the Xtreme brush with a carbon fibre 10-inch gooseneck. It weighs a paltry 192 grams. So, and here we got with a carbon fibre gooseneck, the Supreme brush, very similar to this one, it's also less than 300 grams. So the difference between this brush, 443, and 193 is about 250 grams. So if I were to do this for a couple of hours, I will feel the extra weight of that 250 grams. Add to that the difference in the weight of the poles, I'm looking at about 1 kilo. So I challenge you to do this with 1 kilo and you will get tired. So reducing the weight makes the pole more maneuverable and easier to control, but also you're putting in less hard work. So this pole, although it is longer, it is stiffer and lighter. That means that the carbon fibre used in the new Gardiner Ultimate is of a very high quality, very high modulus carbon fibre with a very high megapascal rating for stiffness, as opposed to here where they've just beefed up the wall thickness. Right, here we have all the 4 poles collapsed. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about the ergonomics of the pole design. As you can see, the Reach-iT Pro is a very long pole. It is the shortest pole amongst these poles, but the section lengths are quite high. Now I'm 6'1", 183 centimetres, and I'm virtually on my tippy toes here operating this pole. So I have to really operate it on an angle. Whereas with this pole here, I can reach the clamps a lot easier. Also, when you put it in your vehicle, this pole here is probably 30 centimetres longer than the Gardiner poles. Now the Gardiner poles, they're all exactly the same, virtually. The other thing that has to be said here is the quick lock system is so simple. You can put the brush on this way, that way. There are angle adapters, plastic ones, so you can straighten it. But being able to quickly take the brush off and put it away so that you don't end up with the weight of the pole sitting on the brush and causing the bristles to bend when in storage. The Reach-iT Pro uses the Euro fitting, which screws off, and I'm sure all of you are familiar with the difficulties sometimes of squaring this brush up, which might mean like having to over tighten it and then getting it up and then finding it's not quite straight and then having to play around with the thread until it's straight. You don't have that problem with the quick lock. Now the other thing that I wanted to point out, there is a little notch here inside the clamp that has a positive little piece that snaps in. So it snaps into that little groove there. And every time you snap that, you can see the white wear on the plastic clamps. These are virtually brand new, and there's quite a bit of resistance with undoing it. The other problem that these poles suffer from is, these clamps suffer from, is they slip. And so they've put in these guides to prevent that when the poles collapse. Now you can see here, if it comes down, these little points will snap off. This one's snapped off already. And these clamps require constant adjustment to stop them from spinning. Whereas the Gardiner clamps, I'll go and get a Gardiner one. The Gardiner clamps here have a very smooth shape that it's like a socket in a ball joint. It's very smooth, there's no snap to it, and in there is a little shim called a Delrim shim. It's a very special nylon plastic that acts as a lubricant, and so when your action of your clamp is not smooth anymore, you can simply replace that shim. The other thing of the Gardiner Smart clamps is there is a spring inside here. I don't know if you can see that, but there is a spring inside the clamp that makes for small adjustments. So if the pole wears out, it might wear out more on the end here because it's clamped there more often over the years. The spring will auto fit for the minute variations in the pole thickness. So very little adjustment is necessary with these poles. I mean, you can adjust them by hand quite easily, but because it's spring-loaded, it makes minute adjustment itself, and so there's very little adjusting to do. If we line these clamps up side by side, you can see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 clamps, as opposed to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 clamps. Now these 7 clamps here, well, this is the 7th clamp, so I might just get rid of that. So we're lining up seven Gardiner clamps against 7 Reach-iT clamps. Now the profile of these clamps is much lower, meaning that the collapsed length of the pole is more efficient. Whereas here, the clamps stacking on top of each other makes this pole a very long pole. So in conclusion, if I were to buy a pole, this would be the clear choice with a carbon fibre gooseneck in the end. Very light, very easy to extend. Smooth clamp action. And very easy to control at full height, which I shall demonstrate. And there I have it. Very easy, incredibly stiff. When I stand back, I have direct control on the surface. There's hardly any sway going on. This truly is a remarkable pole. I can easily bring it down onto the ground. I have to be careful, there's a road there. Might just stand back a little bit and bring it down. Now we'll operate the Reach-iT Pro to give you an idea. Put the pole tip in. Now the clamps are much higher up. There is no positive stop because this pole's been designed to pull apart on some of the sections, so you have to be careful not to overextend this pole. So here you've got the red section. If I keep pulling, the pole comes apart, which I don't think should be a possibility with high reach poles such as this, because it could lead to broken clamps because you've overextended it. And my arms are already tired because I'm having to reach up so high to extend this pole out. But having said that, I'm not quite as high with this pole. It is a very stiff pole still, but I can definitely feel the extra weight on this pole. So now I'm going to extend the super lightweight Xtreme pole. Fully extend this pole up. It is feather light. So the Xtreme is 47 feet. This is very easy to control. This pole is so light. This is effortless. So up against the wall, very light, very stiff. I'm controlling this 47-foot pole one-handed. You know, I can one-handedly put this pole behind my back, hand behind my back. To take this pole down is just so easy. So the Gardiner Xtreme, the Gardiner Ultimate, 47 feet poles, the Reach-iT Pro, a 40-foot pole, and the weight difference between them is phenomenal. So in conclusion, the Gardiner Ultimate is the clear winner.
What's my life?